Today is October 11th, 2020, and you're watching Horseshoe Politics. I've decided to make today's video just about a bunch of different events that have happened recently, kind of like the video that I made a few days ago. I think it was October 7th. This video is going to be similar to that in that I talk about just several different events that have recently taken place and giving my thoughts on them. The presidential election is only 23 days away from today. It will be taking place on November 3rd, 2020, and I think that most of these events will relate to the presidential election in some way at least. But let's begin with that now. The first event I would like to talk about is the state of the second presidential debate. Just a couple days ago, it in fact got cancelled. You guys already probably know about this by now. If you don't know about this, you've been living under a rock. Trump has been diagnosed with COVID-19 a little less than 2 weeks ago from today. And because of that, that actually happened right after the first presidential debate. But after he got diagnosed with COVID, that was within the 2 week, that was less than 2 weeks before the second presidential debate was supposed to happen. That was supposed to happen 4 days from now on October 15th. But since that happened less than 2 weeks from now, he's technically supposed to be quarantining for that 2 week period, and that October 15th date lies within that 2 week period he's supposed to be quarantining for. And because of that, Joe Biden has said that he'll only debate Trump if it's a virtual debate, if it's a virtual format. He's not willing to do an in-person debate with Trump because of the risk that he might transmit COVID-19 to other people, because there's no way to know for sure whether or not he still has the virus until he gets tested and lets the whole country know that the virus is out of his system. But until that happens, there's no knowing whether or not he actually has it. So because of that, Joe Biden's afraid of having a debate with Trump because Trump might have the virus and spread it to other people. So Biden said that he's only going to do the debate if it's a virtual format. But then Trump soon after said that, no, I'm not doing that. I'm only going to have the debate if it's in person. And because of this disagreement, Joe Biden only wanting it online virtually and Trump only wanted it in person, because of the disagreement, it was eventually decided that the second presidential debate is just going to be cancelled. This is what I thought was originally going to happen, but then after a few days, it seemed like they were still going to have the debate, despite despite the fact that Trump's supposed to quarantine for 2 weeks, and the debate was within that 2 week period. It originally looked like they were still going to have the debate, but then I guess just a couple days ago, it was announced that they are canceling the second presidential debate. As of now, I'm pretty sure that the third presidential debate, which will now, I guess, be the second one, because the actual second one, the one that was originally supposed to be the second one, that got cancelled. But I think the one that was scheduled for October 22nd, I think that will still happen, but that will be the last presidential debate. So in most years, they're supposed to have 3 presidential debates, like in 2016, that's what they did, but I guess this year they will only be having 2, because the one that's supposed to take place in a few days, that just got cancelled. This is probably bad news for Trump because the debates were one of his last chances in order to have a better chance of winning this election. Donald Trump is around 9 percentage points behind the polls against Joe Biden in the nationwide polls. It's nearly impossible to win a presidential election when you're that far behind in the polls. When Obama won in what was basically a landslide victory against John McCain back in 2008, Obama was around 7 percentage points ahead of John McCain in the nationwide polls leading up to the actual election day. And that ended up being a landslide victory for Obama. Even if you think that the polls are a few percentage points off, when you take the average of them, that's what says that Biden's up by 9 percentage points on average. But even if you think that that's a few points off, that's still Biden being up against Trump by 5 to 6 percentage points. And I know that the election is not dictated by the popular vote winner, it's dictated by the Electoral College. But even then, it's impossible. It's not actually impossible, but it's realistically not possible to win the election when you're down like over 6 points in the popular vote. When Trump won the election, when he won the Electoral College in 2016, he only lost to Clinton by around 2 percentage points in the popular vote. And losing the popular vote by 2 percentage points but still winning the entire election, that is not at all unrealistic. That can easily happen. But when you're down in the polls by 5 plus percentage points and currently 9 percentage points in the case of Trump, in that scenario, it's basically impossible to still win the Electoral College when you're that far behind Joe Biden in the national popular vote. We still have to see, because the election's still in 3 more weeks, if the gap between Biden and Trump narrows up, but this is not at all a good time to be doing this badly in the polls when the election is this close from today. So Biden has around a 90% chance of winning. I would say that percentage chance could go down. I'll let you know if it goes down, but as of now, you can expect Biden to be your 46th president. The second topic that we will be covering in this video involves the governor of Michigan, Gretchen Whitmer. She is a Democratic governor. She first got elected as governor of Michigan back in the 2018 midterm elections as a Democrat. And she has recently, just in the past few months, gotten a lot of media attention. The main reason for this was because of her handling of the COVID-19 pandemic. She imposed, I would say, stricter restrictions than many other states, and because of that, that was a fairly controversial move. A lot of people applauded her for her serious handling of the virus, but a lot of people said that she went too far with her restrictions and that a lot of people couldn't pay their bills as a result. So it was a fairly mixed reaction. A lot of people liked her handling of the pandemic, a lot of people didn't. A lot of people think she went too far. But she got a lot of fame from this in the summer. I think that's when a lot of people started to know more about her. And she was, for a time, before the George Floyd killing, I would say, she had a good chance of becoming Joe Biden's vice presidential pick. I think after the George Floyd killing, there was a lot more demand for Joe Biden to pick an African American as his vice presidential candidate, and that's what he eventually did. He eventually chose Kamala Harris as his pick. But just a few days ago, it was announced that there was this group of 13 people that were trying to kidnap her and possibly even kill her. Now, it seems like this group of people were far-right extremists. Gretchen Whitmer is a Democratic governor, so she's probably a little more left-leaning in her policies. So the people that would hate her the most are people that are on the far right. That would make sense. But I guess these far-right extremists, they were trying to kidnap her and possibly even kill her. Thank God she's safe now. The far-right extremists were able to be stopped. Thank God that nothing happened to her. Thank God she was not harmed in any way. But I actually want to talk about how I think this will impact the presidential election. As you guys may know, Michigan is a swing state in this presidential election. It's a state that has been consistently voting for Democrats in the presidential election up until 2016, where in a surprise turn of events, Trump was able to flip that state from voting for a Democratic candidate to voting for him, a Republican candidate. And ever since then, Democrats have been really desperate to try to win that state back in this presidential election. And I honestly think that despite how brutal this was, and thank God Gretchen Whitmer is safe now, I think that this will actually help Joe Biden's chances of winning just by a little bit. Why do I say this? Gretchen Whitmer was a Democratic governor, right? And these are far-right extremists that were trying to kidnap her. So I think that just because of sympathy for her, because of what she had to go through, more people will probably vote for Democrats in this election in the state of Michigan than would have done so previously. This is just my speculation. I don't really have any evidence to back this claim up, but it's just what I think might happen. So this might help Joe Biden's re-election chances a bit, because more people will feel more energized to vote for a Democrat in this election compared to the Republicans, because it was a far-right group trying to kidnap a Democratic governor. These are just my thoughts. This might not be the case. I'm just speculating. I don't have any evidence to back this claim up, but it's an event that happened recently in a swing state, for that matter, and I thought it was something worth talking about. The third topic that I would like to talk about in this video is not even really related to politics. It's more related to the environment as well as just the well-being of people as a whole. And that topic is Hurricane Delta. Now, this is a hurricane that just this past weekend started passing by the United States in the Gulf area. Most of the hurricanes that affect the United States, they usually affect some of the states in that Gulf area, the Gulf of Mexico area. States like Texas, Louisiana, and Alabama, and Mississippi. Those are usually the states that get affected by a hurricane whenever a hurricane hits the United States. For example, in 2017, Hurricane Harvey hit Texas badly, and also sometimes hurricanes affect Florida badly, like in 2017 Hurricane Irma affected Florida. And earlier this year, Hurricane Laura affected southeastern Texas as well as Louisiana really badly. But now this hurricane, it's also affecting several of the states in the Gulf of Mexico area, such as southeast Texas as well as Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, and even Georgia. So all those states that border the Gulf of Mexico, they're being badly affected by this hurricane. And it actually turns out that around 700,000 people have experienced power outages because of this hurricane. Around 700,000 people in that Gulf area, they don't have access to their power because of this hurricane. And especially considering that a lot of people now have to do their work online and they have to do online school, virtual learning. Because of the COVID-19 pandemic, that's still a thing, even after all these months. Because of that, a lot of people will not be able to do that anymore, and that might cause them serious setbacks. So I hope that this whole hurricane can be dealt with soon. I hope that the hurricane passes by soon, and also I hope that these people can regain access to their power, because especially now when you have COVID-19, a lot of people have to do a lot of work online with their job and virtual learning. So this could cause some serious inconveniences for these people, and even worse, there's also the possibility of serious property damage because of these hurricanes. That's with all hurricanes in general. I know Hurricane Laura caused serious property damage. I'm hoping Hurricane Delta doesn't do the same. But that's just what 2020 has done to all of us. 2020 will not stop throwing challenges at us. You had first the possibility of World War III, then you had COVID-19, then you had the killing of George Floyd. It will not give up. It is unrelenting. Nothing's out of the picture in 2020. Hopefully, this hurricane passes by soon and hopefully doesn't take the lives of many people. 2020 has actually had so many hurricanes that they've actually had to resort to using Greek letters of the alphabet to start naming these hurricanes. So just a little while ago we had Hurricane Alpha, and just recently we had Hurricane Beta. Now we're dealing with Hurricane Delta, because usually they name the hurricanes based on names. The first hurricane of the year will have their name starting with an A, then it goes B, C, D. But I guess in 2020, it has thrown so many hurricanes at us that we ran out of letters of the alphabet, so we've had to resort to Greek letters to start naming these hurricanes now. I think that just shows how bad 2020 is in many different aspects, but especially with the weather as well. You had the wildfires in California. You also had Hurricane Laura just a couple months ago, but now you have Hurricane Delta. Hopefully it passes by soon. The last topic that I would now like to talk about is with Amy Coney Barrett and her Senate confirmation hearings. Those are expected to start as soon as tomorrow, in fact. Tomorrow is a Monday, so I guess they will be starting her confirmation hearings then. But the 2020 election is just over 3 weeks away, and I don't think they will be able to finish her entire confirmation hearings in just that short of a period of time. What that would mean is that they would have to go into the lame duck period, the period of time when the president has already won the presidential election but hasn't actually been inaugurated yet. So the period of time between November 3rd, or in our instance, it might be like November 5th or 6th or 7th, depending on how long it takes to decide the winner. The period of time between that date and January 20th, when the president elect actually becomes the president. This might become really controversial, especially if Joe Biden wins the presidential election, because then you have the president-elect, the one who's supposed to be the president in just a little bit. He's not even able to choose the Supreme Court nominee, because President Trump already did that. And the Senate is still taking a vote on it, despite the fact that Trump already lost the election. Ever since Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away a little less than a month ago from now, this has been a really controversial issue. It's just added another layer of complexity to this presidential election, and it's also made things really heated in the Senate, because the Senate has to confirm this Supreme Court justice. She needs at least 50 votes to get confirmed, but you already have two Republican senators saying that they're not going to confirm her until the 2020 presidential election passes by. The other thing to consider is the fact that a few Republican senators recently got infected with COVID-19, such as Mike Lee, Tom Tillis, and Ron Johnson, and I'm not exactly sure how that's going to affect the whole process of Amy Coney Barrett getting confirmed, because if they have been infected with COVID-19, they shouldn't really be showing up. They should be quarantining, but at the same time, will they still be able to cast their votes if they're quarantining? Because the Republicans need at least 50 votes in the Senate in order to confirm Judge Amy Coney Barrett and in order to allow her to serve on the Supreme Court. But if these senators are quarantining, will they still be able to cast their vote to confirm her or not? I'm actually not exactly sure about that. I need to look more into that. But this is going to be really heated. It's going to be really controversial. This election is already a controversial thing, but it's going to get even worse in the next few weeks. The only thing that I can say at this point is to sit back, because we're in for a wild ride. These next few weeks are going to be pivotal weeks for the trajectory of the United States.